Hi, I'm James.
Hey guys, I'm Samuel Cousin.
Hi, I'm Joss.
Hi, I'm Samantha.
Hi, I'm Nigel.
Hello, this is Imad Birman from Morocco.
Hey everyone.
I created an app called Production Portal with my business partner, Chris. It's used to keep track of expense and time card information for film and TV productions.
CEO of Flex. 2 years ago today, I did not know how to code. And now I've not only built version 1, as I like to call it, of Flex, a social money app, but I also run a development agency. And I help other people build apps.
And the app I'm working on, Aspire, started out as a simple spreadsheet application for a small personal training studio during the pandemic.
I've been using FlutterFlow now for a year. My background is in user experience design, and my partner in our startup, his background's in software development.
I work with clients, working with organizations, companies, and also for my personal projects. And it was very fun.
Fortunately, I discovered FlutterFlow, and it has let me create this beautiful app, the one you see right here. We've been able to embed videos, write custom widgets and custom functions, integrate data with websites and our automation platform, and just so much other stuff in a very short amount of time, and with very little headache.
A few months ago, we were pitching to the show Amazing Race to use our app. And we had about a week before we were going to pitch, and we needed a fully functional app. Now, we already had a prototype, but it was in AppSheet, and because of the lack of flexibility and the cost per user, it just wasn't going to work. So we needed another solution. So I found FlutterFlow, and within less than a week, we had a better functioning, better looking, and fully deployed to the App Store and Google Play Store mobile application.
Fortunately, I discovered FlutterFlow. I was skeptical of FlutterFlow at first, but it soon became an essential part of how I would build Aspire. FlutterFlow was visual and intuitive.
We use FlutterFlow to help us speed up our design to development workflow. It's really great. We recommend it to as many people as we can, and it's made a big difference for us in our startups.
My current job at Deloitte Digital was as a result of the apps I've managed to build successfully with FlutterFlow, and I've been doing that for the past year.
Thanks to FlutterFlow, I am in the final stages of building Aspire.
Coding was always something I've wanted to do. It's always something I've been interested in, and I couldn't. And that was something that was holding me back in life. FlutterFlow has been one of the most empowering experiences in my life. It's everything that code is, but in a way that's actually usable and human, and where if you want to learn, if you want to build something, you can. There are no limits.
So without FlutterFlow, I would not have been able to build this app. Clearly not as quickly and not as stable as it is. So I just want to thank FlutterFlow team for taking the complexity out of building mobile applications.
Hi, I'm Alex.
And I'm Abel.
And we're the founders of FlutterFlow. Welcome to our first ever conference. We're so excited that you're joining us. We have people watching from all around the world.
Yes, we are so excited to see all these comments. If you're watching live, definitely share where you're from. We already see so many people from all over the place. Excited to see everybody here.
We have an exciting conference for you today, featuring some amazing guests and showcasing how FlutterFlow has helped builders and companies worldwide create unique native applications. FlutterFlow is a low-code tool that allows you to build beautiful apps 10 times faster and at a fraction of the cost. Since launching at Google I/O last year, we've grown to over 250,000 builders with over 3,000 apps deployed.
Today, we will go over what Flutter and FlutterFlow are and why it's a game changer in the app development world for both developers and companies. FlutterFlow is a new way of building apps. Instead of manually coding an entire project from scratch, FlutterFlow lets you build complex and beautiful UIs visually, taking a fraction of the time. You can also easily add common flows such as authentication and push notifications, add business logic, connect to Firebase or any APIs, and leverage several third-party integrations out of the box. The best part of FlutterFlow is that it generates clean, human-readable code that you can export for the whole application, download or export to your repository. And if there's any functionality that you need that's missing, you have unlimited possibilities with custom code.
So FlutterFlow is built on top of Flutter, Google's UI toolkit, and the #1 cross-platform framework worldwide to build apps on mobile, web, and desktop, and is used by companies such as Alibaba, BMW, eBay, and many more. If you haven't tried it yet, you can get started for free at flutterflow.io. But instead of just telling you, let's show you. Today, we're excited to announce the winners of the FlutterFlow Games Hackathon. We've had a number of amazing submissions from participants all over the world who built games in FlutterFlow in just over 2 weeks. So a huge thank you to all the folks who submitted their work. Now, let's check out some examples.
You just saw some of the submissions. We were very excited to see what people were able to build in such a short period of time. You know, when we originally created the hackathon, we weren't sure what kind of games people would build because we didn't build FlutterFlow with games in mind originally. But we were very surprised and excited to announce who are going to be the winners today. We have 2 different sessions. We have the judges that voted for the top 5, and we also have community voting top 3 there. And we're going to start with 5th place. We have Jain Williamson for building Dinner Inc. We're going to play a video of that. So this is a fun single-player game inspired by one Jain played when he was younger. He uses custom functions to add randomness to the prices of items. This is a game where you go and purchase things at different stores. and tried, and with some constraints of trips around, round trips you could make. He uses custom functions to implement complex logic such as order fulfillment, and we were pretty impressed with this. I've definitely played it myself and enjoyed it. So congratulations.
Great. And in fourth place, we have Tuche Kosiolu, who built Hangman Wars. So this game is quite a lot of fun, and it turns Hangman into a competitive real-time game. So Abel and I actually played this the other day, and we weren't that good at first, but you could say we got the hang of it. Sorry. It's actually quite a fun game.
Yeah, if you're curious about the result, Alex won. All right, in third place, we have Muhammad Kafid Bakhtir for building the Dota 2 quiz. This is a quiz app for that has different modes for Dota 2 fans. This app uses Firebase. It uses API integrations. I believe it uses 2 different API providers that load data about different characters and the information about them, the different teams. It has great animations as well, and overall great quiz game for Dota 2 lovers. So congrats to Muhammad. All right, okay, I think Alex is having some technical difficulties. I'll announce the second place winner. We have Darwin Dalma for building FlutterFlow. So FlutterFlow is the classic battleship game built in FlutterFlow. The design and overall quality of this game was very impressive for us. This game uses grid views to populate the game state, and Darwin also uses custom functions for the logic in terms of like where you can and cannot place different ships. I guess you could say this one was a hit. All right, and finally, in first place, we have Ajit Radnus for building the Alphabet game. So this game was incredible. It was hard for us to, when I first saw it, I thought, okay, how much of this is custom functions and custom code? Because there's animations, as you can see in the screen, and a little bit of different fruits falling down, and you're supposed to avoid some things and collect different items. And it was so much fun, and it was built almost entirely in FlutterFlow. I think you used a couple of custom functions, and so it was very clever use of animations and various logic to make it happen. So congrats. But that's not all. We also have the community voting section. So we'll announce the 3 winners from that.
Yeah. So sorry for my brief absence. In third place, for the community voting, we have Sunghyun Bae for building Plant Game, which I liked a lot, and it definitely grew on me.
And then in second place, we have Giannis Rongiris for building the Seer Kalchas.
And lastly, in first place, we have Pankaj Sharma for building Snakes and Ladders Trivia, which got the most votes and really climbed its way up to the top. And that's all. Yeah, thank you all so much for all of your wonderful submissions. Some of them may be featured in future videos and on our website so that we can continue to showcase the power of FlutterFlow. But that's not all. Everyone who had a qualifying submission we'll be getting a FlutterFlow swag box and some Flutter swag as well.
We'd like to say thank you to the Flutter team who sponsored the hackathon by providing swag for the contestants. And for the rest of the session, we'll share a little bit about our journey so far, and we'll open it up for questions from the audience. When we decided to start working on FlutterFlow, the motivation was really to build something that we could have used for the last startup we'd worked on. We were building an app, and it felt like getting from idea to functional app took months. So even with amazing productivity improvements you get with Flutter.
And yeah, that's when we decided to apply to Y Combinator, a startup accelerator, and also put our idea out there to see if other people were interested. We were surprised at the flood of interest from Flutter developers and when we initially announced it, and we got to work immediately building our MVP. Our early users were very supportive and gave us a ton of really amazing feedback, which is still the case today. And after a lot of hard work and iteration, we were lucky enough to have our public launch at Google I/O's Flutter keynote just about 8 months later. Since then, we've come a long way. The most exciting part of building FlutterFlow is the privilege of supporting and witnessing our users solve real-world problems. They are entrepreneurs building their companies, freelancers and agencies building for their clients, and developers at large companies building apps that solve real business needs.
The one constant thing we've had since basically the early days has been the love, the support, the feedback we've been receiving from our users and community. As you can see in the chat here, it's very positive, such a supportive community, and we appreciate you as always. Thank you so much. And now we're going to open it up for questions. All right, what's it like working with Y Combinator? Okay, so I can start with this one. So we were in the W21 batch for Y Combinator. So the way Y Combinator works, a lot of startups, I believe 10 to 15,000 startups apply every year to be a part of one of the 2 batches that they have. So the process is it's a 3-month boot camp, essentially, where we go through different learning material. There's a community and resources in there, and there was some target of raising a seed round by the end of it. It was an amazing experience. We learned a lot. We made lifelong friends from that very intense 3-month session and building up to the end. And of course, it's a great network to be a part of. And so it's still something that we benefit from being members of afterwards. Is there anything you want to add, Alex?
That's about right. Abel, you want to take this one?
Sure. Yeah. So I believe there's on the experts page, there's an apply button which has takes you a type form, and you submit projects that you've worked on, and so we basically look at how long have you used FlutterFlow, how much expertise have you developed, and then we kind of review those every so often and accept new members to the experts program, and we'll post the. I think
from what I saw from the snakes and ladders, I think you'll have a good shot, Pankaj.
Someone said, whatever you do, don't shut it down. It's not a question, but rest assured we won't. are there any plans to implement ROI or Google Cloud Functions? I see that question. So we're, maybe Alex, do you want to answer this?
Yeah. So yeah, we have spoken closely with the ROI team. They're great folks. It's a wonderful company, and yeah, loosely it'd be fantastic to do something with them. They provide a really nice service that allows you to have like a kind of beautiful, seamless CMS with your Firebase and Firestore and more data. So it would be quite a nice collaboration between us. And there are also we already do leverage Google Cloud Functions quite a bit within FlutterFlow for things such as Stripe, such as deployment for push notifications and more. APIs as well is a recent thing that we've added too. And so extending that to allow folks to deploy any kind of Google Cloud function is something that it would be a very natural next step for us.
What's a common misconception people have about FlutterFlow? So maybe I think maybe probably slightly earlier days, we kind of saw some, probably the biggest misconception I've seen was people saying, wait, this is almost like taking jobs away, or in a sense. Some comment, there were a few comments kind of like with that sentiment, and we thought we were actually we were doing this to make FlutterFlow more accessible, Flutter and application development in general more accessible and more broadly available. So that's probably, I'd say, the biggest misconception is I believe it's bringing more people to Flutter, and in fact that's what some of the comments I think we're also saying here was that they're coming to Flutter. FlutterFlow definitely made it easier to get started with Flutter. So that's probably the biggest misconception for me. Cool. We'll take a few more, maybe 2 more, and then we'll take a short break before the next session. Okay, so there's a question: how are you able to generate native apps versus hybrid apps? So there's no secret. It is Flutter that we're building on top of that allows us to do this. So Flutter is a Google-based SDK that allows you to. It's open source, available for free, and it is open source. But it allows you to build applications with from one code base that can run natively on desktop and mobile. So on Android, on iOS, Windows, Mac OS, Linux, but also compiles to JavaScript that can run on web. So it's a very, very powerful framework, and that's kind of why we decided to build FlutterFlow. And I think we'll talk more about that in the next session, where we have some incredible guests specifically about that. Okay. Next question.
Yeah. I think we had one about the next big thing, or something of that nature, from Sergey. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, there's so many fun things to build. So many like interesting things we could add to FlutterFlow. Obviously, there's tons of third-party integrations that we can add that will be fantastic. One of the things we're really looking forward to as well is adding in much more support for kind of like custom code and custom development right now. One of the features people like the most is this ability to add custom functions, custom widgets, and actions. But in some respect, it's still a little bit limited compared to like what we want to be able to do. We want you to be able to seamlessly be able to add any kind of code that you want without the restrictions of or limitations that we place right now. And so kind of being able to freely edit, not like the page code, but freely edit all of your custom code is going to be a huge win, I think, for FlutterFlow users. I don't know if you had any other.
No,
no,
makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry we couldn't get to every question, but thanks for asking them. And we're just going to take a short break before the next session. All right, we're back for our second session. Why Flutter? We have incredible guests with us today, both of whom were critical for the Flutter journey.
Yeah. So I'd like to start off by introducing Kasper Lund, the co-founder and CEO of Toit. Kasper is the co-creator of Dart, the programming language, the language that powers Flutter, and he's also the co-creator of the V8 JavaScript engine, which powers modern browsers, Node.js, and more. Kasper, thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here, and thank you for having me.
Great to have you here, Kasper. We also have another special guest, Tim Sneath. Tim is the director of product for Flutter and Dart at Google. Tim joined Flutter while it was still in its infancy and has been at the helm throughout its incredible growth. Tim, it's an honor to have you here with us. Thanks for joining.
Hi, you guys. It's super to be here. I'm just honored to be able to join you and Kasper and talk a little bit about Flutter and FlutterFlow.
Good to see you again, Tim.
Yeah, you too, Kasper.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, Kasper, let's start with you. Can you tell us about the story leading up to Dart and kind of the motivations behind it?
You want the real story, or do you want the polished one that we usually tell? You probably want the real one, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah,
I joined Google in 2006 to build the JavaScript engine for this browser that we were doing at Google, Chrome, and that went really, really well. We developed something that was much faster than the competing engines out there, and we had a ton of fun doing it. But at the same time, right, whenever we had to implement functionality described in this JavaScript specification, we got somewhat sentimental and a little bit nauseous because there were so many things that were just really, really incredibly hard to make fast and make robust. And maybe the worst part was really that it was so hard to make performance predictable. So we could make things go really fast in one app, then someone would delete a property of some object somewhere or do eval in an inner loop somewhere, and all my smart optimizations would go nowhere. So it was just so painful to watch us build this, at least what we thought was pretty incredible technology, and see people have a hard time get the most out of it because it was so hard to use right. So we thought about a way to make something that was just much more predictable, much more structured, much better for developers to get that right performance. And it was very performance focused, you could say. And we just found that the confines of JavaScript were just a bit too much for us. And we did so well with the JavaScript stuff that Google as a company were willing to say, well, why don't you just go build something even better? And we did with that. So that was the reason we decided to sort of go into that. It was really, essentially, if you've watched the Destroy All Software WAT speech by Gary Bernard, where he shows some of the warts of JavaScript, that's the reason why we did that. It was just incredible to see what happens if you get a little bit simpler system, right? And we wanted to have a simpler system to hack on.
Yeah. Did you at the time kind of imagine what, so you weren't really building it with kind of UI in mind, and it was really just to kind of have a faster version?
Yeah, we wanted to essentially try to see if we can make something as an alternative for JavaScript in the browser. Now that's super hard, right? You need to convince all the other vendors that it's a good idea. That's terribly difficult, and we didn't succeed with that. We spent a lot of time on optimizing Dart compiled to JavaScript, which I think you guys are still benefiting a lot from in the Flutter and the FlutterFlow world. So maybe that was the best thing that could happen, right? That we sort of got some resistance on that part, found a good way to target the modern web without fundamentally changing it. And then at the same time, it allowed us to build a virtual machine, a Dart implementation that was just much more predictable performance-wise and much faster on mobile phones, which turned out to be a sweet spot for Dart, I would say. So we had hopes for being a UI language all along, but it sort of took some cool innovations on other fronts to make it happen.
Yes, and it's just definitely code we've been writing a lot of the last several years, and we definitely love the language. So yeah, safe to say it worked out really well.
It really did. It's actually quite a joy to pick up. It's very fast. It has all the benefits of a typed language, but also all of the, you know, nice syntactical sugar of JavaScript and other languages too. So yeah.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah. So I guess this next question is for Tim. So Tim, I know you've had a long and successful career at Microsoft before this. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and also what motivated you to join Flutter so early, which was arguably a gamble at the time?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, I spent about 17 years at Microsoft working mostly on developer technologies. I used to do a lot of developer relations kind of roles at Microsoft. You know, I joined back when Windows XP was still the current version, and kind of followed through from what was originally Longhorn. I came to the States in 2004 to work on this sort of fledgling sort of Longhorn project, which was an attempt to redefine the Windows UI. That was part of it. There was this thing called Avalon that became WPF, that was really trying to redefine and modernize how Windows presented pixels on the screen using hardware acceleration, using managed code. And yeah, I had a fantastic time. Microsoft's a fantastic employer, very technically smart, you know, understand the importance of developers. But yeah, I kind of got this sort of call a little bit out of the blue from Google, telling me about this sort of project that they were sort of looking for a product manager for. And there was this thing called Dart that I knew of only because of, as Kasper sort of said, like the sort of almost the sort of the non-successful attempt to bring it to you know, replace JavaScript at the time, and Flutter that I'd never heard of, despite spending all my time in the UI world. So it was kind of you know, I was sort of started just sort of delving in and seeing, well, what is all this about? And like I think almost everybody else maybe on this call, I kind of fell in love. I love how clean and thoughtful Dart is as a language, how tastefully designed it is, and Flutter really grabbed my attention as you know, an attempt at this space that so many have tried before and you know, made valiant efforts at, but also failed at, of building a UI toolkit that can deliver both the cross-platform kind of side of the world, but also delivering this high-quality, beautiful, rich, native kind of performance and quality. And those two things have been like, you know, one of those sort of like holy grails for, I guess, UI. It's kind of crazy, right? You know, to date, there's no easy way to build an app that goes everywhere. I mean, there's the web, which is fantastic, but let's be honest. I mean, just between ourselves, as it were, the web is started off as a document markup language, right? HTML stands for hypertext markup language. It was never intended to be the substrate for you know, applications, and so you kind of get all these layers upon HTML and JavaScript and the DOM and everything else that are trying to sort of like take this fantastic transport layer and build an application platform on top of it. So you have that sort of side of the world, and then you have all these sort of like native platform-specific toolkits that are fantastic in terms of performance, optimized for an individual platform, but just not capable of delivering that sort of that productivity side of things. So you wind up with people building the same app 4 times, 5 times over, exactly the same app. And we have that too at Google, right? You look at almost every product that we ship, it's available on multiple platforms. And so teams wind up rebuilding those same kind of things. So my arrival at Google was part of, you know, my own sort of bet on that there was a better way. And I thought, well, you know, we'll try, or we'll go down in flames trying. And so far, you know, the flames haven't overcome us yet. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and this seems like an effort that, even going back to Java, originally, you know, designed to run on any machine. I think Flash arguably is also trying to kind of do a similar thing, but those hadn't worked. And was it the fact that it compiles too? I guess it's a leading question. So what were some of the things that kind of convinced you, you know, it could happen? I mean, that, did you think it was different this time? And
yeah,
well, what was the reason?
I mean, I think there are a couple of things that still hold true, actually. I mean, number one, there are very few companies that actually have the resources and willpower and tenacity to do something like this, right? I mean, it's sort of very difficult to build, because essentially what you're doing is you're owning that abstraction on behalf of everybody else. So instead of everybody building 6 times for 6 platforms, you're taking that burden on as a platform provider. So that's one thing. Secondly, I think, yeah, you're right. I mean, the quality has always been the thing that's suffered, right? It's always been that compromise, and you either get cross-platform or you get performance. And I think the thing that sort of stood out for me from Flutter was seeing some of those, and also seeing some of those early wins. Like Hamilton was one of the very first apps that was released for Flutter when it was still in that sort of like technical preview alpha phase, and some of the early progenitors of Flutter and Dart, folk like Kasper and others that sort of were made this product successful long before I joined, set the seeds for its success. And I think I can take little credit for anything other than watering those seeds, because it's the engineering quality of those early decisions, the as we sometimes describe it, the technical envelope of which Flutter and Dart were built, that has kind of created the foundations for its success.
Yeah, and actually we want to show, I think this is a good time to show a chart we grabbed from Stack Overflow trends. Let's see if you can put up on the screen. This is just to show the growth and success Flutter has had in the last 5 years, basically essentially since launching.
Looks beautiful. Up and to the right, I'm pretty sure.
Exactly.
All right. So
yeah, I think we may be covering it, but yeah, the general trend is Flutter up to the right, other things down. Take our word for it. But it's
actually, Stack Overflow questions is one trend, right? But I mean, so you could take that and read it in a lot of different lights, right? It could mean that lots of questions isn't necessarily a good thing, but there are other sort of metrics or trend lines that I think we're really excited by. There's, I don't know, something like 600,000 apps today shipped using Flutter and Dart on the Play Store and the Apple Store. And we can only track a fraction of the apps. Obviously, we can't track desktop apps or web apps in the same way because there's not necessarily a store to put them in. But we see that sort of kind of crazy growth, and it's very humbling from our point of view, of course, because we're just trying to build our little sort of thing in the bowels of Mountain View and Denmark and a couple of other locations. But it's just, yeah, the growth is certainly pronounced.
Someone asked they really want to see this chart, so I'm just going to share my screen here.
Nice.
Just to put it up there.
I want to see them too. Yeah.
There we go. Can you see it now?
There you are.
There we are. Yeah, at the very least, even if it's people asking questions, at least it shows that they care. May not be the ideal metric, but it shows some amount of care.
Yeah, and the very first sort of like spike you see there in 2018 was when we started with the beta for Flutter. That was the 1.0 beta, and that was sort of like the beginning, really.
And I have, I guess, one other question for you, Kasper. So one of the common questions that we get from developers, especially ones that don't have a lot of familiarity with Dart and come from like a JavaScript background, like what are the important differences between JavaScript and Dart, and what is, in your view, like the main benefits of using Dart?
Maybe I sort of gave a little bit of the answer to that question away before, but I think it's a very good question. Like, what's really the difference here? I mean, when you look at it from a language perspective, it is a lot about, I think, predictability and being able to reason about code that tends to grow over time. And with JavaScript, we just found it incredibly hard from the implementation side to reason about the code we were supposed to run. But it's certainly also true for developers that the flexibility you get from a language like JavaScript, where you can delete local variables introduced with eval, and there are so many things you can do that are just kind of insane. And the thing is, you will end up using some of those by importing that next smart framework. And when you sit in there try to debug your app and try to figure out what's happening. That's the point in time when you realize that if you had a simpler, if you will, language, a smaller, more well-defined language with a semantics that was clearer, it would have helped you. And I think it's sort of a slightly theoretical answer in the sense that there's no good reason to discuss languages at that level. It's much better to just dive in there and try it out. And we just find that people that use Dart, even if they usually are JavaScript developers initially, they end up appreciating some of the structured features over time, and the kind of growth of that ecosystem on Pub and other places also demonstrates that these things tend to combine really well together. So like the composability of things, the way nicely structured, well-defined code sort of just fits together is a huge win over time for an ecosystem. So it's maybe a little bit less about core syntax and a lot about sort of how non-surprises over time just really help you.
Yeah.
In your code and in the code that you depend on.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what we found as well.
Yes. Okay. So one question, and kind of you're also starting to see in the comments. So both of you, saw FlutterFlow relatively early. We're still very small, and we just would love to hear what was your first impressions when you kind of found out about FlutterFlow or saw what it could do. Maybe I'll start with you, Tim.
Yeah, I love. I'm seeing these sort of questions about sort of maybe we can have more FlutterFlow and less Flutter. I love that because that shows that you're building and adding value to Flutter. Look, I mean, what we provide is the technical baseline, the sort of like the substrate, if you like, on which FlutterFlow is built. But it's just super to see that FlutterFlow is taking advantage of what Flutter has. The two go very well together, right? Because if you have a good platform, you can build amazing apps. And so, what the reason I'm here in support of FlutterFlow is because I see this tool as being a fantastic step forward for developers that want and creators, not even necessarily developers, who want to build experiences that don't require you to be a sort of a deep sort of like coder to have to sort of like deal with all the aspects of application development. And FlutterFlow is really nicely built as a kind of a layer that understands what it's built on, and also abstracts and provides sort of like tooling that helps real world developers and users build apps using it. So that's what I like about it. It's a really straightforward, easy to use tool that can generate some really powerful results. And the fact that it's built on Flutter is a win-win from my sort of slightly selfish perspective as the person who's responsible for Flutter. It means that there are more Flutter apps out there, but also it shows that there are others who are building value on top of the platform, and that is likely to lead to long-term success. So, when folks say I'm not a coder, I'm focusing on business processes and things like that. That's exactly what FlutterFlow brings. It brings the power of this really rich, deep platform to everybody, and it democratizes access to that platform.
Is anything you want to add to that, Kasper? Or I do have a fun question I want to switch gears to.
Yeah, so I'll just add that, like, for me, having lived through lots of both browser and programming language wars, there's something really neat about seeing people benefit from complex language work without having to worry about it. So just when I saw FlutterFlow and saw what it offered people a chance to use, like those people that sort of benefited from the get-go from this technology didn't really care about JavaScript or Dart or anything. They just wanted to put together a beautiful app in no time, right? And I think that's really, really powerful. So maybe it just takes a little bit of the focus away from that, like language level and all this stuff, right? And just focuses on what really matters to most people, building beautiful apps.
Yeah, and that was the motivation for us from the very beginning, was so we can focus on the product and the problems you're solving directly. Hopefully we can present the abstractions at a high level enough, higher enough level that you can be very productive. And for slightly switching gears, I want to ask about what were the first ever applications you ever built? So first ever visual applications you built. What language did you use? What IDEs? Do you remember? And
You want to start, Tim, or should I?
You go for it.
Okay, it's pretty weird. So I built an advanced visual editor for colored petrinets, which is the weirdest kind of thing in the world. Sort of an advanced state machine-y thingy, and we wanted to build a UI tool that allowed people to edit those complex graphs and nets using both a mouse in the dominant hand and a trackball in the non-dominant hand on Windows, where we had to like jump in at the driver level to make like two mouse cursors appear at the same time, and that was fun. And we decided to build it in a language nobody has heard of. It's called Beta. It's invented here in Aarhus, where I live in Denmark, and it has a non-searchable name, so you can't find anything about Beta, of course. But that combination was just a lot of fun, right? So sitting close to the compiler team that did this, and then building this visual tool for a formal modeling language called colored petrinets was like the first sort of real thing I built.
That's cool. For me, I mean, gosh, I mean, I've been, I'm starting to get old. I'm starting to realize that I used to be a young guy, now not one of the young guys, but I started programming on a ZX Spectrum, which for those of you who kind of grew up in Europe or you may be familiar with, is an old school sort of 8-bit microcomputer, and it was super easy to get started with, right? I mean, in the 80s, to actually have a device like that was really, really great. More recently, I think, well, going forward, in the 90s, the thing that was amazing was Visual Basic, right? There were lots of people who programmed with Visual Basic because it made it easy to create UI. You could just take a button from a toolbox and drag it on the screen, and you had a button. And you wanted to have something happen, you just double-clicked on the button, and you wrote what happened at that point. And that was like the 90s. 30 years on, we haven't seen anything quite like that, I think. Lots of things have kind of made some forward progress, but have actually also regressed in some ways. And again, that's what I love about FlutterFlow. So one of the things I tried when I first got my hands on FlutterFlow was recreating an app that I built when I first joined the Flutter team, which was a dad jokes app. And my goal was to just take this app and to see if I could build the same thing in FlutterFlow without writing a line of code. This app, it basically is, you're just calling off a web service. So there's a web service that just spits out jokes. I'm not writing the jokes themselves. I'm just calling into this web service. And it's just an app that sort of displays these things. And I kind of built it both to learn Flutter and also to impress my teenage kids. And so that was sort of my app. And and I was really impressed that I could actually recreate the app with almost no issues on FlutterFlow. I was expecting to hit some kind of bar pretty early on, and that was going to be my feedback to Abel and Alex. But I was disappointed that I couldn't give them that sort of constructive feedback, because it kind of just worked.
Yeah, but as I recall, you definitely still had some great things to say that we definitely learned from. And but obviously, as you can tell from the rest of this conference, we were very, very happy about the dad jokes app, because we clearly have an appreciation for that. So that was something we'd love to see. Yeah.
So we're kind of getting to the end of the session here. So let's use the next 5 to 10 minutes for maybe questions from the audience.
Waiting on questions. Kasper, have you written any app with FlutterFlow?
I have only worked at the sort of the slightly more technical level with Alex and Abel when they actually visit us here in Denmark. So I've been sort of investing my time at the lower level, as I usually do, like hiding below the surface. I always end up doing that. I'm not quite sure. I write too few apps.
I saw a question. Is it possible to import UI from Figma? I think it has come up a couple of times. maybe we can start with that. It's a FlutterFlow question. It's definitely something we've, there's already a package. There's a Flutter package that imports from Figma. We wanted something we've thought about from the very beginning. I think we're getting closer now. The only constraint is we want to make sure that we import it in a way that it's responsive, that the code works the way you want it. It's not just arbitrarily positioned on the screen, in absolute positioning, so that as the form factor changes, your layouts adapt as well. That's why we've kind of been taking our time to do that.
I think a lot of people have some, especially developers have some like almost PTSD about tools that take design and go to code, because generally they make very, very poor code. And so that's something that we're excited to do, and in an intelligent way. And Figma actually has some support for this too. So I'm very excited about getting to that.
This is a great question. So maybe I can give it a go. Maybe Tim or Kasper, if you guys have an opinion here. So I think the direction. So we're very, very early, but I believe the direction we're headed, I think, is going to be the future of app development, in the sense that being able for a team to collaboratively work on the graphical part of the application, connecting it to different data sources, adding logic, all of these things being very efficient, and working with higher level abstractions, while you also have the ability to work with any custom code that you may have to write, with a very strong ecosystem of plugins and available code, such as PubDev provides a lot of, I think there's over 15,000, maybe 20,000 by now, packages that are available, that even higher, that integrate with all sorts of, that provide a lot of functionality. And I believe that kind of direction is where we're headed, where you can build applications really quickly by plugging and putting pieces together for building apps much faster than previously done. And we're not saying we're the ones who make it happen. We think we have a strong shot, so we're going to keep working at it, but that's the direction that I believe it will head. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I think about the direction that you all are taking with FlutterFlow, it feels very aligned to me with some of the investments that we've historically sort of made. Right, there's a talk that our technical lead gave, called the mahogany staircase, and the idea of this is essentially that you build layers, right? And so what you need is a really good, it's like when you build a house, right? You need a foundation, you need a slab that you can build on that is going to sort of endure, and that's kind of if you like the Dart runtime and Flutter, and then you kind of build things like widgets, and then you build sort of like animations and cool graphics and things like that, and then FlutterFlow is really kind of the next sort of tier up. Like, how do you take all of those lower level investments and build higher and higher primitives on top of that? It's crazy that today, if you want to build, for example, a login for your app, you typically are building text boxes for usernames and passwords and buttons that handle the sign-in process. And then you have to implement like a forgotten password flow and a flow for like different sort of sign-ins, Apple, Facebook, Google, Microsoft. Like all of that stuff you can abstract once you kind of grab layers and layers upon that, and it just becomes easier and easier to build an app. So I believe that the future is more and more of those pre-built parts and tools that allow you to assemble those things, so that when I'm thinking about an app, I should think about, okay, I need login, I need profile management, I need a shopping cart, I need a catalog, I need all these different pieces, and I should be able to just assemble those rather than having to essentially define them from first principles. And I think FlutterFlow is an important step towards that.
Yeah, that's definitely how we think about it as well. And I love this analogy of the mahogany staircase too, because we've always said that FlutterFlow is definitely standing on the shoulders of giants, and that's very true. And I guess we have two of these giants here today, but yeah.
I think one small comment there is, I think it also really matters how you stand on top of these giants. I think if you find a way where it fits natural with the layers below, not just using it and hiding it away, then I think the story really fits together. Like we've seen people build abstractions that are somewhat detached or even sort of fighting the underlying mechanisms. And that usually ends up in a lot of complexity and something where you can just tell that the things are not well aligned all the way through. So you sort of have to have something from the core, the language, the foundational frameworks, everything all the way up to the sort of the low-code, no-code tools that fit together. And I think that's where FlutterFlow really shines, right? That there's a reason why you haven't just called it App Builder 2.0, right? It's very well aligned with Flutter. And I think that really gives it a lot of strength and it gives you a lot of flexibility. So those abstractions, that's the way we should go, definitely.
Totally.
Great. All right. So, yeah, we're over a couple of minutes now. We should wrap up. Tim, Kasper, thank you so much for joining us today. It was definitely such a real pleasure to have you and an honor. Thanks for joining us and chatting with us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, congratulations on your success so far. I think, again, you've got a lot of potential ahead. And to those who are listening in, this is an amazing tool to try and check out.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, y'all. Take care.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us in the inaugural FlutterFlow conference, and especially thank you so much for joining us for this enterprise session. I'm Abhishek Pathak, and I head the enterprise business for FlutterFlow. I'm very excited that you're here, and I'm all the more excited because of the two fantastic guests that we have today for this panel discussion. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome Mr. Sanjay Jain, the Chief Technology and Product Officer of FreeCharge, and the person responsible for driving digital transformation at Axis Bank in India. Sanjay, welcome.
Hey guys. Hi, thanks Abhishek. And thank you so much for inviting me on this conference. And I think, it's just a pleasure for me to come on this platform and, share our story. So everyone thinks, what is digital transformation? But for me, digital transformation is just not only tech. We are transforming the whole company, whole organization, and the way they work, the way they think. So that's a level of transformation we have done over here. So we started our journey way back in 2020, and everyone believes transformation is just probably you are just passing your tech work or building some journeys to the outside world. But no, the journey what we started was a very difficult one, and we thought instead of just giving anything to outsiders, let's build something in house. And this is where
amazing. Yeah, no, I was just going to say that, for our audience who would probably, in order to understand the scale that you are talking about, we are talking about an organization size of Axis Bank, the third largest private sector bank in India, more than 40 million customers, right, and probably more than 3,000 branches. The scale at which you are operating, and the complexity that you are handling, and then driving that whole digital transformation. I can't even imagine how you do what you do, Sanjay. This is phenomenal. And again, thank you so much for joining us today in this session. We would love to hear more about everything that you are doing. And I'm also very excited to welcome our second guest, Sudi Navile. Sudi is the CEO of Sid Global, and we could not think of anyone better to invite to talk about digital transformation, because Sid Global, a company specializing in digital transformation, serving customers across North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. Sudi, welcome.
Thank you, Abhishek. It's a pleasure to be here, and I definitely look forward to having this conversation. And I think for us, the digital transformation journey has been tremendous in terms of opportunities that we have seen in a variety of sectors and verticals. And literally, I could say that we have experience in working in almost every vertical. Even though there's a concentrated view of 4 verticals, we have a long tail of verticals that we have. And I see this as a horizontal problem that cuts across many verticals, and there is a lot of cross-pollination that could be, done to benefit through the implementation. So happy to be here, and would love to have this conversation with the both of you, and see how we can, share our narratives and stories and experiences that'll help the larger group of people here. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sudi. So, coming to the story and narrative, right? Sanjay, I want to start with you. Again, going back to what I was saying, Axis Bank, one of the largest banks in India, millions and millions, like 40, 50 million customers, and the complexity. So when you look at, a organization of this size, which needs to execute on a strategy of customer experience, you are putting customer experience above everything else. How do you approach this problem? How your journey has been, and what were the key challenges that you think one should appreciate when you think of digital transformation in organization of your size?
So to tackle this problem, what we did over here is, we built the complete team in house. So be it design, be it DevOps, be it tech, everything we built completely from scratch. Very first thing, we thought of to build a very unique customer experience. You don't have to, you're not only transforming the whole existing on not only the bank, but you have to transform the people as well, the thought process as well. So whenever and you have to drive from the top. If you don't drive from the top, definitely it's just not going to work out. So we first kind of and especially working in the enterprise, and that too in a regulatory entity like us, and that too in a finance sector, very first, the most important piece is security. So we targeted the security folks first. We laid down the whole security layer first, and then we did lots of POCs as well. We demonstrated how it can be done on the cloud as well, because just the more kind of the enterprise like us, everyone is more, and they are very deep into the on-prem systems. The cloud was very new for them. So what we have done is, we have taken them through the whole journey, and we demonstrated them, how it can be done. The same process is what you are doing on-prem can be done much better way, much automated way as well on the cloud. So that's the approach we took. We have taken them through the whole journey. We deliver our products, we build these products along with the existing team. Along with that, we thought kind of to build a very unique experience, you need a very strong a tech at the core. So we got the bank on the cloud first, then we built the very unique design team as well. We built our own design systems as well. We built our own illustration system as well. So this was kind of alien word to the bank, and especially to the traditional banks. But we did all. And along with that, we also introduced how to work in agile way, how to use the agile tools as well. So we have completely started everything from ground up, and that's how we have taken this journey. And once we launched our first cloud native product, the feedback was amazing. In fact, lots of folks who actually saw our first product, they said, hey, this is really a bank product, or it's some nice cool startup or fintech product. But yeah, we have done all.
This is excellent. So, Sanjay, the key takeaway from the story that you just narrated is usually we think digital transformation is just about slapping an app, building, a few, screens, taking some input from a user and just storing it in some database. But that is not what it is. There is just so much that goes behind building a successful digital application, and there is so much to consider, be it from perspective of people, culture, product, security, architecture, so on and so forth, right? So it certainly is a very strategic decision that needs to be taken in every step of the way, and a very very deliberate exercise, not just something that you can build on a whim. And
Absolutely.
on that thought,
In
please
fact,
go ahead, Sanjay. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, so
You're back.
here, we have built everything from scratch. So that's another advantage we were having it, because we were starting from scratch, and so that's the advantage we had it. But yeah, when you are building something from scratch as well, that's also a challenge.
Of course.
But yeah, we have taken the existing systems as well along this journey. So we transform not only the new tech, but the existing tech as well. So we have done both the transformation actually. So with the existing system and the new system what we're building.
This is excellent. So, Sudi, I have a question for you. We when we think of a digital transformation, especially as Sanjay mentioned, transforming existing tech, right? Of course, there are several challenges, especially if you're operating in a regulated industry such as yourself. How do you see the battle between time to market and the need to modernize and compete with the newer fintechs and newer experiences that are being delivered to your customers day in day out? How do you balance that, right? What's your opinion?
So I think there's a couple of dimensions to this, right? In terms of in order to survive and thrive in this kind of a situation where transformation is key, right? I think Sanjay has articulated very well what that means, but how do you get there, right? The reach from an experience perspective to the market is extremely important. Now, when you overlay the capability, the velocity, all of that, what people tend to forget is that the foundations on the back end, where the platforms need to be done really well, and then isolate or separate your experience capabilities, which itself requires a tremendous amount of velocity. So, what's happening, what we've seen is this is what has driven to kind of have a partner ecosystem come into play. And in order to drive the innovation through a partner ecosystem, then you have to build the capabilities in the value chain across the board. So that's basically what we have seen emerge. And if you don't have your capabilities built in each of those areas, then it certainly makes it challenging, if not difficult, to get to where you need to go. So whether you have, obviously the orchestration layers, right, with API being at the center of the economy, and the proliferation of how it has grown over the last 5 to 6 years is basically proof that this is essentially how most of the enterprises are working towards enabling the transformation, which is nothing but innovating at a pace of embedding their services into various experiences that the consumers are expecting today. So that's basically what I see, Abhishek, happening out there.
That's a very interesting perspective. Sanjay, I want to pick your brains on something that Sudi just mentioned about experiences. Now if we look at experiences, most of it today is we don't have the possibility of probably experimenting with various ideas. But when we build experience, especially when you are building let's say a consumer app, right, which is going to be used by 20 million, 30 million, 40 million people, how do you what do you think should be, what do you think is the biggest challenge in terms of determining the application UI, the user experience, and the capabilities that you want to deliver via this application, right? What do you see as the biggest challenge in determining the best approach or the best possible outcome that you would like to design?
Sure.
Is it
See,
people challenge? Is it developer challenge? It is developer time? Is it technology? It is process? What is it? I mean, I would love to know.
well, it's a combo of all actually. There is no silver bullet for delivering one amazing product. So how we tackled over here is the very first thing, very fundamental thing for us was scale was the biggest issue for us. What we have seen in the past was, we were having amazing products, but whenever there is a massive scale comes, then we were not able to deliver. So I have to, very first thing I have to tackle is the scale. And to tackle the scale, what I did over here is we have chosen the best to best technologies. We haven't chosen anything which was so-called enterprise, but yeah, we have done completely obviously the open source and the mostly the managed services. If I talk about we chose AWS for various other reasons, but yeah, we mostly chose the managed services and over here. So we chose actually Kubernetes, so that my all complete backend. By the way, I am proudly say that we are the first traditional bank of India, bank actually in India, where we launch the first production workloads actually right away, in Kubernetes. Because whenever you are starting your digital transformation, it's very difficult to choose the technology which you don't know, but we took that challenge and we delivered it. So that's how first we built the tech, I mean the backend. Because see, whenever the traffic comes, even though you have a very nice, cool customer experience applications, it's just not going to work out. So backend is the one which is the core part, or which is the heart of your complete product, and that should be able to handle the scale. So that we handle this way. Second way is to tackle the customer experience. What we have done, we have as I say, we haven't outsourced anything. We built everything in house. So even my authentication framework also I built myself. I built obviously along with the whole team, but we even that piece of thing as well. We ensured that we built ourselves so that we don't have to depend on any of the third party tools. So any kind of customization also I can do easily. Third thing is design. So for design, we have amazing design team. So that's what we targeted first. We want to build very amazing focused design team, and the design what we have to build is a scalable. So for instance, in case of financial products, various financial products, I'm gonna we have built savings account, current account, credit card, bunch of such the fintech products where couple of components are quite common. So let's say if I want to authenticate the customer through various login mechanisms, so I'm going to build in such a way that I can reapply the same logic at other products as well. So we built this microservices, and the design also we built in such a way that I can replicate the same concept, the same components everywhere, so that my dev time decreases a lot. So to keep this in mind, we built the whole design system. So again proudly say that we are the first at least traditional bank in India who have their own design system called Sub-Zero. So we built this design system, and then we rolled out to across not only the products what we are building it, but if Axis Bank, Axis Bank works with various partners, various vendors. So we have actually made it publicly available. and we shared them, like, because the kind of journey what we gone through, the painful journey what we gone through, I don't want that journey to to everyone to go through. So we actually built the whole whatever the design guidelines what we were having it, so no one has to start from scratch. So all the building blocks in design as well, it's already there on our design system, which we open sources. After that, so first our first version, so we took the step by step, like, we first built design system for web apps. Then we targeted the React native apps as well, the hybrid apps. Then we targeted the Android and iOS apps as well. So right now we are in the stage where we have for all the platforms we have our own design system. So this is how we tackled it. I mean, if I go deeper, there are so many other things we have done. This
of course, there is just so much to talk about. No, but this is very interesting, Sanjay. One key takeaway that I have from what you just explained, that at least on the backend side, the cloud technologies have been transformational in nature, right? So with these managed services, you are able to tackle the challenge of scale. You are able to tackle the challenge of which is traditionally was very complicated. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit and come from a design perspective, from your design of your user experience perspective. You said that it is important to build in-house. That means you want to create intellectual property. You want to make sure that you have the access, the entire source code is with you. You are able to build it the way you want to build it, right? Because that gives you the maximum amount of flexibility possible.
Yeah.
In that context, how do you see technologies such as FlutterFlow play a role in an enterprise setting?
I think, so when I saw the FlutterFlow first, obviously, with your, when I met you first, then, I just gone through the whole FlutterFlow as well and understood what exactly the FlutterFlow. So I think, it's a pretty interesting tool. So to be honest, like, as far as the Flutter is concerned, we tried when we were building a trading platform, we tried as well. In fact, I tried Flutter in somewhere back to in 20 when it was launched, actually. So these were my experiences so far as far as Flutter is concerned. So we already tried and tested. We have done lots of POCs as well. But FlutterFlow was a bit different. Like I say, hey, this is literally, I don't have to write any piece of code at all. That's a beauty. And go to market, obviously, is pretty quick. So in fact, just imagine the Sub-Zero, the design system, what we have it. We call it a digital design system. And the FlutterFlow kind of tool, if I give this to any of my product guy or business guy, they build their product, and that's it. That is all required. And they can actually literally they can launch the products without even without any kind of help required from us. Obviously, we have to build the APIs, we have to write the APIs, but still the front end they can tackle, they can handle, and that's the beauty I see. That's the advantage I do see in the FlutterFlow. And apart from it, like, so there are lots of issues when we use open source, right? At least in FlutterFlow, my system is not going to hang. I have a nice, cool, the kind of ID as well, which every developer looks for. That's first. The second thing is, like, let's say if I want to do a multilingual, I want to build a multilingual applications, right? Then it's so easy. If I ask any feature, the most to build one common applications, if you require whatever the features you require, I think everything is available in the FlutterFlow. So I think it's a good combo as far as our use cases are concerned. But I think for the larger audience as well, do try FlutterFlow, and I strongly recommend. And it's pretty cool if you really your go-to market is really, really quick. You're looking for try and test it out, and I think it will work.
This is amazing. Thank you so much for that endorsement, Sanjay. Sudi, I want your take on this, right? From a project delivery perspective, I think you are always constrained, right? You have customer asks are always, they wanted it yesterday, and they want it really, it shouldn't be expensive because, of course, no one is increasing budgets, right? You want to reduce it. So you, at one place, you want it faster, and at the second place, you want it cheaper. How do you see technology such as FlutterFlow kind of bridging that gap and making this impossible task probably a little bit possible?
Yeah, I think we have to think about it. I will always try to use a physical world, examples to kind of provide, some kind of a narrative here, right? So if you were to think about an assembly line for a car, right, and think about how things happen today. Somebody has to first design, have all the things done, and then you bring them to the assembly line after it's manufactured. But just think if you had an assembly line where you can design cars while assembling them, right? And that's what FlutterFlow brings to the table. The other piece is, let's say you want the cross-platform aspects that you're talking about, right? So when you're talking about, I want to build a vehicle that is in the water, a vehicle that flies, and a vehicle that goes on road, right? You don't have different assembly lines here. Think about a single assembly line that could give you all those three vehicles, but you're designing in your assembly line, right? If you use that analogy for software development with for experiences, I think that's what FlutterFlow brings to the table. Now, let us use that and say, okay, what does it mean? You've eliminated design cycles. That means time to market. You've basically made sure from a capability perspective, it's easier because you don't need a concentrated or a large group of expertise. You can have a small group, but then a large group of citizen developers that can take this and run with it. And yet, you don't lose some of the underlying capabilities that Flutter provides from an experience perspective. So I think it brings all of things together to drive. And for people like us, this makes it easy to talk to our customers and say, okay, you want something that's cheap, you want something that's long lasting, you want something that's good. Yeah, we can definitely deliver that to you. And hey, here is how we can make that happen. So I think all in all, I see this as a benefit to all of the people in the ecosystem. So that's my point of view based on the experience that I've had so far with what we've tried to do with FlutterFlow.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sudi, for that perspective. And I love the analogy of having an assembly line for vehicles that can be on the, on water, in air, on land. Amazing. That is a great example. Sanjay, I have last question for you, right?
Sure.
And this is a very important and a strategic question. You see, whenever you think of a low code, no code tool, right, or any platform that is generating, application which you're using for building application, you always run the risk of getting logged to that platform, right? And God forbid you are successful, right? It becomes a strategic risk, right? Because now your success is totally dependent on the success of the underlying platform, their supportability, so on and so forth. And in an enterprise environment where longevity is extremely important, you are not really recycling these applications every day, especially if you're in a regulated industry such as a bank of your size, right? You have money, deposits of millions of people, in your custody. You cannot take that risk. How important do you think is the capability that FlutterFlow brings, which allows you to keep the source code? You get to genuinely own the intellectual property of the application that you're building. What's your perspective?
Yeah. So before even trying FlutterFlow, my first question actually was, and I really wanted to figure out whether the code would be in my control or not. Because being a developer at heart, I always wanted to see. I want to keep control of my code. Whatever customization I want to do later, I should be able to do that. And when I saw that capability in the FlutterFlow, then that gave me a huge confidence. And then, so first I tried myself. I seen myself whether it's, so whatever the FlutterFlow folks are saying, is actually true or not. So I tried myself. I saw that, and then I passed on to my folks, my dev team, and say, hey, go and check out now. This is a tool, and this one, we definitely should be kept. We definitely have to try and test this out. So that way is definitely very, very important for all of us, and the beauty and the ease of let's say if I think about as a developer perspective, then I can, so whatever I'm doing locally on my system, almost everything I can see in the FlutterFlow. So for instance, let's say if I have to check in the code, do I need a Git? Then yeah, that plugins are there, the Bitbucket plugins are there. So and the kind of customization what I have to do, all those possibilities are easily doable in FlutterFlow. So for me to choose or select or try even FlutterFlow was the first thing is whether the code should be in my control or not, the kind of customization I should be able to do or not. That is the beauty, which I never seen or haven't seen, like the kind of other platforms, the low code, no code. Everyone thinks about low code, no code, but and the performance is a very very key important aspect. Because see, if I'm, let's say if I'm betting on FlutterFlow and the kind of scale what we operate at, and if that doesn't work out, that is a big failure for us. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so performance is another key important aspect. And I think whatever we have seen so far, whatever we have done so far, I it just fits into all of our kind of it passed that stage, that phase. Now we
Passed the
can
test.
exactly. So at least now confident, we can roll out the applications in the production systems as well, and we can try and test it out.
Excellent. No, thank you so much for that perspective, Sanjay. If I were to summarize what we, my key takeaways, right, was that it's important to have control, especially in an enterprise setting, because longevity is important. You cannot really bet your future on any platform, irrespective of how strong the pedigree is, right? And that's extremely important. Technologies, cloud technologies, are really bringing in, are solving for the backend scale issues. So now you can create really robust backend technologies by leveraging the platforms that the cloud vendors are providing. And with now tools such as FlutterFlow, which allows you to quickly build and experiment, you can now deliver really robust customer experience, which is not just about the UI, but the overall experience, the performance, the scalability, and the whole 9 yards can easily be delivered in the timelines that business expects us, the stakeholders expect us, the board of the company expects us to deliver, and do it at the cost which makes the CFO happy. What do you think, Sudi? Closing remarks on those points.
I think it's very important to understand that, right? POC is production. That's basically what I would say when it comes to FlutterFlow, right? There is no, people had to go through these cycles and go through all of these things. I think the second piece that you touched on, I think you asked Sanjay about this, is proprietary versus something that's open. And I think when you have an accelerator like FlutterFlow that basically is all about speed, and also getting people who are not necessarily super experts but can do this, right? With those two things coming together and you having access to the code, which is not proprietary, I think is what, from a benefit or a value perspective, converges, in helping enable and build these experiences, to go through the journey. And obviously, what I also tend to look at is every 3 to 5 years, the shelf life and the cycle, of the technologies and how things are changing. You need to be able to develop and deploy things faster. And what better way to do that with than using a platform such as FlutterFlow. So that's my takeaway by looking at and working and doing some of the projects that we've done through FlutterFlow. So
Excellent. Again, thank you so much for taking the time today to speak to us, to speak to our audience, to speak to the broader FlutterFlow community. Sanjay, thank you so much for being with us and sharing a very valuable experience, your lived experience with us. And again, from on behalf of the entire community, I want to thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sanjay.
Thanks.
All right. Welcome to session 4, live building with FlutterFlow. So for this session, Andrew and Sofia will be creating a workout app live in FlutterFlow. Meanwhile, Martin and I will serve as your hosts during this session. We'll be on and off commenting on what's being built and helping answer any audience questions. So first, I'd like to introduce Martin, who some of you may recognize from the Google Flutter team's online content. Martin is the former global marketing lead for Flutter, and we're excited to welcome him back into the world of FlutterFlow. Thanks for joining, Martin.
Yes, thanks so much, Alex, for having me. And it's great to be back. I have been on the Flutter team at Google since 2017. So I saw when Tim joined and some of the early team members joined the team, and it was amazing to watch Flutter itself grow within Google from a couple thousand users to now the millions of developers around the world that are using it. And I actually joined FlutterFlow as an advisor because when I joined the Flutter team, I was always looking for tools that could be built on top of it that are low code and do an exceptional job at allowing people to build these beautiful apps. So very excited to be here, and thanks for welcoming me.
Yeah, so awesome to have you here. And now I'd like to introduce you to our very special builders. So first, I'd like to introduce Andrew, our head of design here at FlutterFlow. Andrew's been here since day one, providing us our initial designs before we'd written a single line of code. So welcome, Andrew.
Hey guys, good to be here. I'm really looking forward to this session. And yes, Alex, I've just loved working with y'all and it's been fun. So I think this session is gonna be really cool. Every time we do this, people leave like, oh, that's what you can do in FlutterFlow. So I hope that this will be similar.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so excited to get started. And next, I would like to introduce Sofia, who is a rock star software engineer here at FlutterFlow. Sofia's also been here from the very early days, and we're so excited to see what the two of them can build.
Hi. Yeah, I'm excited to see what we can build too. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, so I'll give you a little preface. So we're gonna build a team workout app. And I'm excited. It's gonna be fun. We want to showcase the benefits of FlutterFlow and the features that we built and how you can utilize those in your building as a team specifically. So Sofia and I will be building. I'll be building the front end. She'll be building the back end, hooking stuff up, some of the logic and everything, and utilizing Visual Action Builder, backend calls, and yeah, just like some robust actions, team code. I want to showcase just the UI side of it. I've been a product designer for 9 years. I've worked on over 100 mobile applications, designing for 100 mobile applications in that time. When Alex and Abel came to me and they said that they were building a no-code platform, I couldn't contain my excitement. I had a call. It was a call in a Starbucks, and I'm pretty sure everybody looked at me weird because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe what you're building." I was thrilled, and that thrill has just continued over the last year and a half, a little more now. So it's really fun, and it's cool what you can do now, and what you can do in FlutterFlow, and then also the future of FlutterFlow. So I guess I'll start sharing my screen, and we'll sort of dive in. I'll let you guys commentate. So, okay. Just let me know if you guys can see it. As we say in 2022. It may take a second.
I think we're good.
Cool. Awesome. So we're going to start completely from scratch. We're going to do group workout app. We create new. We will, I'll let Sofia go through and set up the Firebase. So I'm just going to skip that for now. You start with a blank screen, and as you can see, this is sort of here. I'll start with my login screen. So I'm going to add login. And the thing I love about FlutterFlow is that we've optimized some workflows. so that you can truly like utilize these templates as a base and then go from there. So I'm going to show you how I do that in my design workflow. So so as you can see, I don't have all the colors I want. So I want to come over here, and this is a feature for teams. You can select design systems. So it's this is a feature I use in design all the time in Figma and Sketch, where you basically draw stuff from a library, and we're gonna do the same here. So we have pre-designed work systems that have colors, fonts. You can add custom fonts and custom icons to these design systems, assets, and all sorts of cool stuff. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. And as we come back, you can see some change. So primary color changed, some fonts changed, and then I get access to a bunch of colors as well, predefined in that design system. So. And I'm not going to narrate the whole thing I'm building just because I need to focus, you know.
Yeah, just to provide a little bit more context on that design system. It is a Teams feature, and you know, now that Andrew's connected this project to this design system, now at any point for whatever projects he has, if you go in and later decide that you want to update the theme of your design system a little bit in the background, it will now update all of your applications with whatever your latest theme is, and as well as the components too, which you can add as well. That's another interesting thing about the design system is that you can design a few different components in the design system, and have them appear in all of your projects and update when you update them in the design system. So it ties everything together, and you can share, you know, themes, components, and stuff across projects.
Something when we were on the Flutter team, we realized it's the importance of, you know, widgets and being able to have all these kind of common components that everyone's using. And I see the FlutterFlow team does a great job at using that same methodology. And it's been saving people a lot of time and money by having that.
Andrew, do you want to share the project with me?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. We can come in here and we can invite, you know, other users and collaborate, which is another awesome feature. You know, something it's really become popular, especially in this remote world, where we can collaborate. I mean, Figma did a great job of that in the design space. You know, we have GitHub for development and stuff, but this is something that we feel is super important and highly valuable for our users, is like being able to share and collaborate on a project. So.
Sweet.
And you can see we have issues coming up, mainly around Firebase not being activated, which will all be taken care of when Sofia hooks all that up. So if you see that populate, that's probably why.
All right, let me get my screen shared. Okay, cool. Is my screen showing up?
All right. Yeah, I can see your screen now.
Cool. Gonna start working. Oops.
Yeah, so Sofia just added a users collection, and you know, if you add a collection called users, it will automatically populate it with all of the kind of necessary fields there for you.
I'm gonna add a couple for sure.
Yeah, so Andrew, can you just tell us a little bit about, or Sofia, about kind of how the app is going to build, or the app is going to work at a kind of a high level?
I got you.
Yeah, especially with back end and stuff.
Yep. So we're gonna, it's gonna be a group workout app. So we're gonna have a homepage that has, you know, all of your group, all of your friends or users in this case, and then a list of group workouts you're a part of. So there's gonna be sort of a more complex layout on the home screen, where you have a horizontal scroll for groups, and then a vertical list view of all your users, with a section in the middle that just has like your next workout time. So
nice.
Yeah.
And in terms of
and then you'll be able to,
Sofia, I'm guessing it'll be mainly based on Firebase, or
Firebase today.
Yeah, so we'll have Firebase authentication and Firestore for the backend for the data. I see a comment. Someone recognizes you, Martin.
I used to do all these tutorial videos. I see someone, so I'm still a huge Flutter fan. I left the Flutter team a couple years ago. I got my MBA over at Stanford, but I'm still very involved with community and with people on the Flutter team, and now with FlutterFlow. So super nice to be back and involved.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have you involved in the FlutterFlow journey as well, because I know you did quite a lot to help Flutter especially in the earlier days when it was lesser known and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even the hackathon was fun to watch. I remember we ran a few contests on the Flutter team, like a Flutter clock, where you have to build very creative clocks. Or our very first one was called Flutter Create. It was a way to build an app in under 5 kilobytes of dark code. And people got incredibly creative and made some awesome designs. And if you guys want to check out the power of Flutter, which obviously translates to FlutterFlow, you can still go to, I think, flutter.dev/create and see some of those submissions as well. But yeah, it's been awesome to see and be a judge at this hackathon for FlutterFlow.
Yeah.
cool. And I'm just creating the top workout card. Do some little avatars up here.
Very nice. Yeah. Meanwhile, I think Sofia is creating the kind of back end, all of her back end collections. Yeah. I don't know if you wanted to comment more on that.
Schema, and then I'll hook up the Firebase after that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I see a question here from Gary about how we're using Firebase and Firestore in this demo, but will API kind of get the same support? And we're definitely in the process of kind of improving our API kind of like possibilities. You can see that we've recently actually added an update for that really expands the kind of capabilities and things that you can do with APIs, like introducing like API groups, private APIs that run on the cloud, and things like that. We do also want to add more capabilities in the near future, such as specifically what you mentioned, like camera users being able to upload photos via either an API call or something of that nature. And authentication is actually something that you can already do using APIs, but it's not kind of as natural of a flow as we'd like it to be at the moment. So that's something that we can, also improve on in the future. So we have a couple other interesting questions here as well. So what type of state management does FlutterFlow support? So what FlutterFlow allows out of the box is we have kind of our own internal state internal state that we manage, just called local state. It's in one of the tabs. You can define all the different fields that you want to kind of maintain at any point. Also on any given page, you have access to the state of different things, such as if you add a text field, you can now use the current value of that text field, the state of that text field, anywhere on the page. So we have both internal kind of page level state management via the use of variables, and also a more global state manager using kind of local state, which is one of the settings on the left-hand side. And let's see. Actually, this other question about adding APIs in the next field autocomplete feature. So we've recently added a ability to have like an autocomplete text box. So in a text field, as you start to type, you can have like an autocomplete basically UI, so that you can select on different options as they populate. That actually already at the moment can be powered via an API, because as you type, you can have an action that's on change that will create an API call that can be used in order to populate that field. So at the moment, you can already you can actually use APIs as well as Firebase and Firestore, of course, to populate that autocomplete field. Yeah. Martin, do you have any interesting, fun stories about the early days of Flutter? I know I've seen some of the videos you've been in, and I know it was a very seems like a fun time. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, something incredible about Flutter and FlutterFlow now is just the power of the global community it has. So I remember at the time when we launched the beta, it was at Mobile World Congress back in 2018. And I remember all these other products had massive booths with a lot of budget, and were very well known. And we had kind of a small Flutter booth in the corner, and people didn't really know us well at the time. But I remember just even though we only had a select number of people there in person at the launch, we actually live streamed and had videos and blogs come out, and it was a huge hit. And even in the pre-COVID days, showed us the power of being able to have live events like this where people can tune in everywhere, where it wasn't as popular to do at the time. So we ended up launching our own kind of Flutter on-site series at other events like Google I/O and Flutter developer or Google developer conferences in China. And we ended up oftentimes getting more views on the videos and more interest globally than other huge Google products would in person. And so it's been a big theme on the Flutter team, even pre-COVID, when it wasn't as popular to do things virtually and expand virtually, to make it accessible for everyone around the world. And it's amazing to see, even in this conference right now, I saw people all over the world tuning in from different countries. And feel free to, again, post in the chat where you're tuning in from. I think it's pretty powerful showing of how this tool is helping people everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we have users in 196 different countries at the moment. Maybe 206. Maybe I'm confusing it with the number of bones in the human body, but it's around 200, and it covers pretty much the entire globe. So that's really amazing to see, and it's really cool to hear about kind of how Flutter's early days about being kind of like scrappy and almost like how a startup would operate in order to kind of get their name out. And I'm really glad you were able to do so, because it is really such an amazing platform that we're really fortunate to build on. So yeah, thanks for that.
Definitely. I mean, if you look at the showcase page now, Flutter is so massive, right? And even within Google, outside of Google, there are millions of developers and tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of organizations that are relying on it. So it's in the early days, there was some skepticism on where is this going, but it just makes so much sense, and it's amazing to see how inevitable Flutter's become, and that's also why it's great that FlutterFlow is built on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that ties into another, I've heard people have concerns about like, oh, is is Flutter here to last? Is Google really committed to it? And Google's definitely demonstrated over the last several years a very intense commitment to it.
Yeah, I mean, even internally, right? Some of the projects, I know the Google Ads team was using Flutter. I know there's, all sorts, Google Pay, all sorts of other projects probably now since I've left internally, that if for some reason they stopped relying on Flutter, it'd be a huge deal. But now, of course, it used to be just the Hamilton app. My first project was to fly to New York and do a case study with Hamilton on that app. And now it was like Alibaba, BMW, eBay, all sorts of companies, enterprises using Flutter. So definitely a good testament on the power of the technology and how long it's going to be here for.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to interrupt real fast. Andrew.
Yep.
You have to add the Firebase project.
That's right.
Yeah.
You got it.
Makes sense. I guess I'll just answer a couple more questions here before we maybe just check in and see how any commentary on how the project is going. I see one about the desktop version of FlutterFlow being part of our roadmap. So we actually have a Mac OS desktop version right now already ready to use. It is much smoother, much faster. I love using it. So that already exists. For those of you who are on PC or like Windows, we have plans for that as well in the near future. We're waiting on a few Firebase features, but that will be in the near future as well. So we're very excited about that. I see another question about, how can I easily integrate machine learning image recognition into a FlutterFlow app? Right now, I think the easiest way to do that is via APIs. So you can make an API call where you pass in potentially the image data or like an upload URL. I think the Google, at least image recognition API allows you to pass in a URL. And so as long as you configure it as an API call, I think that could potentially work. And but of course, Firebase also has some fun image recognition or machine learning capabilities too that we may integrate in the near future as like a in-house third-party application.
Sofia, we should be good to go on Firebase.
Sweet.
Cool. Okay, so it looks like Andrew's populating the workouts page now. Although he's too fast for me. I can't live comment.
Yeah, so this is gonna be part of the choose workout. So there'll be like a list of workouts here for like abs or legs or shoulders or back, and you can sort of swipe through and see all the workouts associated with that category type. And then you'll be able to select the workout and invite your friends to it. So pretty fun. I mean, I think I would actually use this app. So when Abel and I were like, hey, we should like build this, I was like, you know what? I agree. I think this is a cool app.
It's a really cool app.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would actually be pretty fun. Yeah, I have a lot of questions rolling in too. As always, in rapid fire answering mode. Yes, Srikant, yes, multi-language apps are supported very easily, actually.
Do you want us to show that?
Yeah, actually, there's nothing easier than that. But
yeah, there's really nothing. Here, I'll show that, because it's like I said, like this. We're not trying to build this in an hour. We're trying to showcase all the awesome stuff from FlutterFlow. So let's go ahead and showcase this.
We're bringing in Abel as well.
Nice.
Hey, welcome back, Abel.
Hey guys. I saw there's so many FlutterFlow questions here on the side. Great to see. Let's see that.
Yeah, so, and I just turned on languages by selecting, the languages I want in my app, and then selecting a primary language. And I'm gonna go ahead and translate all, which just uses Google Translate to translate all the text in your app. And then, when we start building and continue building, we'll come back and translate more. So as you can see, we have just like simple verbiage over here, and then it translated for all of the languages. One of the most impressive things, I think, in FlutterFlow, this in light dark mode, when I design in because I typically will build an app in Sketch or Figma before I sort of turn it into FlutterFlow stuff, because that's how my mind works. I had nine years experience doing that, 2 years of building in FlutterFlow. So I can build stuff out really fast, ideate, and then throw it in here. I won't do light and dark mode in my design program anymore, because it's so much easier to do it in FlutterFlow. I designed this whole app in dark mode, and automatically I have a light and a dark mode, and everything looks good. So, I just think that's incredible. I'm a big fan. I'll hand it back to y'all.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. This is really cool, just being able to kind of go back and forth between the different languages being displayed. So I'm glad we were able to show that instead of just telling.
Yeah.
And if you guys, go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, I was going to say, if you guys see that small menu pop up in my screen, it's the Command K. So we have a command palette, and I can quickly and easily add like components or pages or navigate to a page. I utilize it a lot. So just an idea.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the command palette. I use it everywhere. Command palettes are common in other applications too. And when we launched it, I was very excited. Very easy to just switch to different parts of the application. There is a question about can FlutterFlow be used for websites? Websites, if so, can the website and mobile app share the same database? So FlutterFlow is great. We originally built it for mobile. We always had our eyes on being able to expand to more platforms, because Flutter supports it. And recently, with our 3.0 launch, we do support web apps. So it's definitely applications more so than websites. So for example, but if you are building web apps, you can make it work really well, share the same database for both your mobile app and your web app. And an example of a recent web app we built using FlutterFlow is actually the Hackathon page, hackathon.flutterflow.app, where people could submit their hackathon submissions, and you can go vote. And all of that stuff was built in FlutterFlow. So since we've launched it, we've also started using it ourselves for apps that we build. In fact, if we built FlutterFlow itself with FlutterFlow, we'd be in great shape right now because of multi-language translation. As you just saw, it was very easy to do in FlutterFlow. And I saw a lot of questions earlier about support for other languages. It's definitely something we'll add in the near future, but it's because it's harder, because we started without a tool like FlutterFlow that can help us do it easier.
Yeah, and we also ended up building a admin panel for this app, actually, all within FlutterFlow. I did it last Friday. We'll showcase that at the end as well. Just a way that you can easily build stuff. And we're getting there with like our CMS and stuff, but sometimes it's good just to have like a visual builder where you can sort of manage everything. And I know that for most of the mobile apps I build, I'll need some sort of admin panel that I can manage stuff, and being able to do that in FlutterFlow quite easily with the same interface, and then sharing the Firebase is amazing. Also, like, you want to share push notifications from one to the other, and it's like super easy. So I would say that's really cool.
I see there's a good amount of people that are pretty new to FlutterFlow tuning in. Just in case you're wondering, are you you haven't downloaded it yet, you just go to flutterflow.io and you can start for free. You just have to enter your email and you'll be able to try it out yourself, and highly encourage you to do that. You don't have to pay a lot of money to try this out. You really can just start and see all this magic yourself. And hopefully as you see this live coding, you can witness how seamless and quick it is to be able to design and build these real apps.
Just to answer a couple Firebase related questions that came up. One is about the cost and like viability of Firebase. So we primarily use Firebase as like our most integrated source of data and for like authentication and stuff. We have found actually that Firestore does scale quite well and quite affordably. We use it ourselves, and we have had no issues there. And there's, as long as you're not doing something like very wrong in terms of like triggering a ton of reads, generally it scales really well. I think it's like 8 cents per, or like what is it, 60 cents per 100,000 reads or something like that. So generally the rule of thumb we've had is that you have to have an incredible amount of success before it becomes even at all expensive for you. And then the other was just about changing like the fields schema for collections. The reason that process has a little bit of intentional friction to it, you can't just easily rename fields, is because when you use Firebase, like if you already have data in your Firestore, you can't just change the fields of that data in FlutterFlow and have that work on your Firestore as well. So it's important that those are the exact same, and so it should require at least some kind of confirmation, or like be very sure that you want to change the field. So we didn't want to just give people access to just immediately edit the field name of their Firestore collections, because that could cause data issues down the line.
For those of you that are tuning in now, just to recap what's going on here, Abel and Sofia are basically live creating this workout app using FlutterFlow. And the rest of us are really just answering questions and commenting on it, but it's cool to see this happening in real time. I don't know if you, Andrew or Sofia, want to add any specific color on what's going on right now, but I know a few people are just joining. So
yeah.
Context.
Totally. Yeah, so one of the things I love about FlutterFlow is that you have complete control over your design. Like I said, I'm a designer. I mean, I love building designs, or I love designing. That's what I love doing. So learning code is very difficult for me. I can do it, but it takes me a lot longer. And if you ask any of the guys, or Sofia or Kathy, like the data and the back end like makes very little sense to me. And so if I had to do this in code, I wouldn't even be able to start. Like I couldn't even add this list view if I had to do it in code. Partially, I mean, we have a great team, so I don't need to learn code. But FlutterFlow gives me the ability to not have to learn code for me, right? Because I have a team of developers as well. I know that's not always the case, but I'm able to just focus on the designs and focus on like implementing awesome designs into FlutterFlow, and then I can pass it off and work with another developer to sort of implement the back end, which is something I really love. So that's what I'm working on now.
The other end of it is I don't enjoy doing the design, but I do enjoy hooking up the back end. So it makes us a great team.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so I wanted to showcase sort of how to build a super custom UI. So we're going to have this workout details page. This will be like it'll give you a preview of the workout. So if it's like, if this is leg day, leg day. This would be, you know, your 4 workouts for leg day, or 8 workouts. We'll dynamically show this stuff, you know, per workout, and then you'll be able to select it and then go here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a progress bar here and showcase some custom functions from team code, so that we can showcase like how much progress you've completed in your workout. So each of these workouts will lead to another page, which I will build next. And then you can complete those workouts, into your reps, come back, and then this progress bar will update. So I thought it was, you know, you want those like little things to spark, right? Like your user experience is so important. The stickiness of your app is super important. So if you can build something beautiful, make it function correctly, and serve it up to work and function, you know, the same every single time, you'll have more and more users come back to your app, and they'll want to utilize it. So that's what I love about FlutterFlow, and I could again speak about it all day. So as you can see, there's a little custom blur widget as well, so giving you that sort of like frost effect. Eventually we'll be able to create the dynamic islands and all that fun stuff, but you know, just waiting for some stuff to happen before that works.
So there's a question about if these are recorded. It is, and also some of the questions that we're not able to get to directly, I know the FlutterFlow account will be answering a few of them as well. So hopefully we can get to a lot of your questions, even if it's not answered live.
Sofia, how will you be integrating this app? So what are you going to be doing for the integration?
For integrating?
So I guess for how, you know, with the schema setup, maybe you can walk us through like the schema of the workout app and how you plan on integrating it.
Gotcha.
So you can see, we've seen some of the design part, and now we can look at what's going in the behind the scenes.
Yeah, so I have a users collection here where all of my users are going to be. We have a sample workouts collection where, and I'm actually working on that page right now. You're going to get to choose from some pre-populated workouts when you create your workout. And so that's where the sample workout collection is, where that data is going to be stored. And then each sample workout has several sets. So we have a sub-collection for each sample workout that contains information on each set. And then when a user creates a workout, which I've been querying here, I haven't added the creation of it yet, but these user workouts hold the information for like the group members, the type of workout that's going to happen, how far in the workout you are, what time it's at. And so, yeah, so I've hooked up this homepage here. We have all of these, your upcoming workouts shown here, along with all of the people that are going to be in the workout with you. The next workout, I've queried what I've queried the workout that contains the authenticated user, and then have ordered it by the workout time and have filtered it by workout times that are greater than the current time. And then here we're showing the friends list from, we hold that back here in the users. And so now I'm going to work on create workout. So I'm going to integrate with the sample workouts collection here and kind of show all of the choices. And then on the next page, you'll get to invite your friends and create the time that the workout's going to be at.
Awesome. I'm definitely gonna check out this app afterwards, and maybe we can get a group workout going. Andrew, is there anybody?
Yeah. I'm down for that.
And
Yeah, just wanted to answer some rapid fire questions too, since we've had a lot in the meantime. To Flying Falcon, yes, you know, a color from variable is a feature that we're hoping to launch in the near future. So that's something that you'll have to look forward to. In addition, I see, Emmanuel, you've asked questions about the audio player and also the Rive package. That is, so we do support both of those, but of course, you know, we want to add updates to both. So both of those will actually be receiving updates in the near future as well. And lastly, I want to quickly chat about a question Gary asked. It was addressed to Andrew, but I can, if he's busy, I can answer. It was basically, presumably, as someone who does not code using Dart, you know, can you achieve 100% of what you need in FlutterFlow? Which I think is a very, very important question.
Yeah.
With the
totally. That was a good question. So you can accomplish a lot in FlutterFlow. I would say 90% of what you need for very complex apps. I was involved in building a on-demand service app. So it was very much like Uber, but for like service workers or yeah, I guess service workers, right? Like baristas and dishwashers and maids and things like this. And we literally built, this was at the beginning of the year. We built 85% of it in FlutterFlow. The thing that spent the most time on was Stripe for web, because it was a three different apps actually. One for mobile, one for web for the employers, and then one for the admin. And so, you know, it was a very robust app. I think it was like 135 screens over those three platforms. And we literally built 85% of it in FlutterFlow. There was little nuances like deploying to web that we had to, you know, export. There was a few custom functions that we had to do outside of FlutterFlow, but beyond that, everything. And now we could have done 95% of that in FlutterFlow quite easily. So yeah, that's a good question.
And this was for like a very complex app. I think a lot of people, like we have tons of users who have zero development background who are able to completely build their applications, even like with a moderate degree of complexity, completely within FlutterFlow. And that's something we want to continue to support, to be able to add, you know, different functionalities so that you could have to do less and less and less outside of FlutterFlow. But on the other hand, the beautiful part, one of the beautiful things about FlutterFlow is this extensibility, that anything that you can't do right now, you can always extend or do whatever with custom code, either within the platform or worst case after you've exported it. So yeah, the short answer is that yes, depending on your app, but if not, then there's always a way.
Yep.
Yeah,
that was, again, an extremely complex app. That was a very robust, you know, like there was a lot of stuff that going on. I mean, Uber wasn't built in a day, you know, like it was a very similar app to Uber. So, you know, like that's a very complex app, a two-sided marketplace with a lot of functionality for multiple user types, an admin panel and everything. There was just an app I saw the other day that one of my friends is in the process of building, Quizzard. It's a game app. It's built all in FlutterFlow, and they use APIs for their game and trivia connections, and it's really, really cool. Beautiful design, but also like the ability you have to create everything in FlutterFlow for that type of app is really impressive. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited about that, like how much you can do in FlutterFlow.
I see a question about secure local storage. That is something you're working on. And in fact, some of these questions make me think you guys can see our roadmap. It's not publicly available, but a lot of them are stuff that's very close that's coming up soon. So it's nice to see some of these requests, which we're glad is aligned with what we're building.
And yeah, I saw kind of another question about responsive design in FlutterFlow. So being able to build screens and apps for different sized screens. And Andrew, I know we've already distracted you quite a bit from your building. I've always been amazed that you can kind of multitask doing this, but do you want to speak a little bit about kind of your experience with like building kind of responsive designs? Because you are the, as someone put in the comments, a wizard at it.
I do quite enjoy it. Yeah, so what you have to do within FlutterFlow, what I do typically when I want to build a responsive app is I try to start with desktop because there's a few nuances. I'll take a break from this and I'll show you sort of the web app version of this project, if you guys don't mind. But this was that login page I built earlier. And you have to sort of create things with containers and think a little bit differently. Whereas before I had everything in columns, utilizing containers, rows to sort of set alignment to the middle and max widths. We are in the process of improving this. So like everything I say here in like, I'm guessing with our roadmap, 2 months, we'll be like, oh yeah, you can just do everything. But yeah, just like the ability to create things, not just centered, not just with max width, but with like updated web navigation and stuff. And creating this, we have a bunch of functionality now that allows you to sort of create this layout and hide this on mobile with responsive visibility, and then showing the native nav bar, which is super cool. I mean, our team that created this web deployment, they really worked hard on, making the UIs that our users create to be, they feel native on native devices and then feel like a web app on web apps. So like typically an app bar up top is not, a common web configuration. Typically you have, either a top navigation or something similar to this, where you have a side navigation and then, maybe a welcome message or a page title on the right. And so this is that web app deployed, as you can see, and you can build responsive tables. I've done a few of those. I didn't mess around with that here, but we have examples on our marketplace and stuff. So I would definitely, think about that as you look to build a responsive app. The employer app that I mentioned earlier, the on-demand, I actually, this was before I was like full-time with FlutterFlow, and it was supposed to be just a web app, and we were running a little behind on the development side. And so I told the client, like, hey man, I'll turn this into a native app for you and an iPad app for you. And it took me 3.5 hours to do that. So translate a web application and the UI for a web application into a mobile application so that it worked. And it functioned just like, it should. So again, 3 hours, I mean, that's why we're not trying to build this in an hour. Like the speed at which you can build in FlutterFlow is amazing. It takes practice. I've been doing this for almost 2 years now. But the capabilities that you have is amazing. If you had to do that in code, and also like produce that, like if you had the web app in HTML and CSS, if I was building another platform, there'd be no way I have to convert that to a native app. Whereas when I built it in FlutterFlow, it was, 3 to 4 clicks on each page, and boom, you have an iPad app that looks good. You have a native app that looks good on your mobile device. It's extremely impressive. And I say that not as the head of design, I say that as a person building in FlutterFlow, that really enjoys it. So don't mean to like toot our own horn, but I thought that was quite amazing. Sorry, Sofia, I may be a little behind on our trajectory.
No, you're good. I think I am too.
Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun.
I know. It's quite easy to have fun here.
Yeah. There was another quick question about whether responsive visibility adds to like the load time, and the short answer is not really, because things are kind of built dynamically. And so the first thing, how it works under the hood is, it loads the screen size and then decides what widget to build. And so, you know, if it's a large screen, it'll build this thing. Otherwise, it'll build a small thing. It's not like it's building both and then deciding which to show you. So in short, not really. The performance is still going to be perfectly good if you're building responsibly. And I also love this comment about somebody who's decided they want to build an application because a developer made fun of them and they decided to do it themselves. I love that. Go for it. I hope we can empower you to build your application. Don't let anyone stop you.
Yeah, I mean, I love the ability that FlutterFlow gives you as a for me, right? I'm speaking to non-technical people, or typically I will speak to non-technical people, but just the ability it gives you and empowers us to deploy applications and to build them, you know? As I said, I've worked in sort of app design projects, app projects for 9 years. And, you know, I've worked with agencies from the United States, and, you know, a very simple application, and I say simple, I mean, no software is simple, but, you know, what can be simple in FlutterFlow now, the average cost of it would be, you know, $160,000. And now you have the ability to prove that concept. And again, that's an American agency. You can do it for cheaper, you know, in other places of the world, but that's incredible to me. Like, right, to get a quality application that functions and works, has a lot of user-generated content, is basically just like creating events, or like this application that we're building right now is just like users creating data and then inputting data and getting some feedback off of it. You know, that would cost, you know, 40 or 60 grand and a 3-month process, where now I can go in here and I can do all this stuff, and Sofia will help me, you know, polish it so that it all works and functions. And we can do it in a day. Now, very few applications are truly built in a day. A lot of tests go on, and there's still a bunch of stuff that you need to work out and figure out. But, you know, it's cool that now I'm empowered to help, you know? Before I was stuck at design. It's like, here's some beautiful designs. I don't know if they're gonna function or work, but here they are. And then the development team, it was up to them to implement them. And typically when I got stuff back, it was like, okay, there's some corners cut. And I understand now. I don't blame them, right? Because like building UI sort of stinks. I'm gonna be honest with you. But now you have the ability to just create UI and pass it off. And I love that. So. Sofia, I'm gonna start in this timer page and bring in the, I'm gonna bring in the data.
Okay.
At least the initial, so I can show the group members.
Sounds good.
There's another one. Here's a question. I have 2 queries on a container that's hidden on mobile. Will that query still load? So the way we do responsive design, and I think this is related to another question which talked about performance issues. So if it's hidden, the way it works, it should not at all affect performance. Basically, the widget is not it's not an opacity thing. It won't load at all. So queries won't be made. And if it's on mobile, it won't have any performance effect on the app. So responsive visibility is nice for that. Right now, the way we generate code, we still, even if it's not as web on a larger screen, the code will be generated as is. We're not gonna remove it from the code as well. And there was a question about like the application size. So responsive visibility is not gonna affect application size at this time. Something we've thought about potentially completely not generating the code based on the screen size. But of course, maybe even on web, you want some things to show up when they're narrower width, just slightly more complex. But that's a good question.
Yeah, a couple more rapid fire question answers. One from Ahmad is about any possibility to have IPA generation in the same way we have APK. The short answer is no, not at the moment, because the way that Apple works is much more restrictive on what you can download onto the phone. So an IPA, generating an IPA, which is the equivalent for iOS to what an APK is for Android, is not something that really makes sense, because I think most people would not be able to get use out of it. But something along, like, we would love to be able to do something like that along those lines in the future to help out folks who don't have like a MacBook and want to be able to test out their application on an IPA. Right now, we do have CodeMagic integration, so at the very least, you can push to test flight and test on your iPhone without having to, have a MacBook. And that's one of the things we really like about the platform, is that you can test things out without having to own a MacBook per se. There's also another question about Razorpay payment integration. We want to add actually a lot of different payment providers. It's not something that in our immediate roadmap, but it's something that we would like to add in the future. Like Razorpay is a good one. I think, for example, Flutter Wave, which is like common in a lot of Africa as well, it's something we would like to support. So adding more support for more payment providers is something that we would like to do in the not too distant future.
Can I download the Mac app on a Mac Mini? There's a question. You should be able to. I don't see any reason why that shouldn't work. The Mac app, if you haven't tried it, is such a pleasure to use because it's super smooth. And I think this is a testament to the power of Flutter. Being able to have this web app that works really well, but also take that and compile it to work on desktop and be able to launch it. We definitely had to make some changes just because of the differences between web and desktop. But overall, we were able to launch it really, really quickly. And it's much smoother, very native, fast experience. So if you're on Mac, we definitely recommend check it out. I see a question from one of our hackathon participants, I believe. If you want to create a YouTube series, we're definitely happy to support you. We'll connect.
Yeah, those games, I was thoroughly impressed. Like, seriously, very cool. Just the amounts. I mean, just what you can accomplish, in FlutterFlow, and the creativity of the builders, absolutely incredible. Like, you guys have built games before, and my mind just doesn't work that way. But man, it's impressive what's possible, and just the creativity of those users. I think it's really cool.
Something I want to add on the YouTube series, and some part of the Flutter community, the FlutterFlow community is so special, is that Flutter is open source, and so we love people showing off for projects and sharing it with others. So if you do end up building something in FlutterFlow, whether it was for this hackathon or in the future, like, please post online, maybe write a little YouTube video on how you did it. Feel free to tag Flutter FlutterFlow on social so we can see it and make sure we share it as well. I think it's really important to highlight some of these projects happening. And so definitely encourage you to make some of those YouTube videos, and please make sure you tag FlutterFlow so that the team can see what you're all building.
Give me a second, I'm gonna switch that over. All right, now I'll share again.
I see a question about our PlayStation launch. You remember the end of that video, Jain? We almost investors were disappointed with our PlayStation launch, so that was a big.
Sorry. Yeah, my grandma's out.
So we decided to scrap our PlayStation plans after that. But thanks for checking in on us. For reference, the PlayStation launch is something we did for April Fools earlier this year. I believe if you search FlutterFlow PS5, you'll find it. It was just a little video we put together. We had fun as a team, kind of thinking about ways we can prank y'all on April Fools. and I think it worked to some extent, because I think some people thought it was actually going to be a PlayStation launch, so it was good to see the reactions there.
We have another 6 months to figure out something else to do for next year.
Don't check your calendars. It's going to be a better surprise that way. Someone asked about contributing to the community, I think even earlier, and I see more questions kind of in that sense. So we have a community forum, but we also have a marketplace we're putting together now. There's the FlutterFlow marketplace where you can submit custom widgets, and you can submit template apps, template screens. We'll definitely add more functionality to the marketplace so you can build beyond what's possible today, including things like API integrations. But that's definitely one way to contribute to the community. And of course, we'll also allow us selling items on the marketplace itself. To allow people to benefit from that. So do you want to do some more rapid fire? So I see that, can I build a Windows app with FlutterFlow? If you go to platforms, it's in alpha. I believe it's in alpha or right now. So something we generate code that should run on Windows. You can't deploy to the Windows App Store or anything like that, or download an executable directly. But you can download a Flutter package that has Windows support from FlutterFlow. So you could build a native Windows app and also a native Mac app. You have to go to the platforms page and enable it, but it should work. And of course, longer term, we want to make sure that being able to, we love the idea of having one place where you can work on different projects, be able to deploy them directly without necessarily knowing the details of exactly how to deploy to a Windows Store or the App Store, etc. So that's definitely the direction we're headed.
Some other questions I see here, like, do multiple queries of a collection on the same page get batched, or does it register as multiple queries? It would, if you're making the query in multiple places, it will register as multiple queries. If it's the exact same query, I would recommend you do it at the highest level, the highest common kind of ancestor, and then let all of them take the data from that query rather than having the query at each level. But the short answer is yes. So I would avoid doing that unless you have to for some reason, which you might. And yeah, to answer Ahmad's question about needing potentially like a content management system, that is also obviously something that we want to improve. We have a very kind of basic CMS platform right now. As I kind of mentioned earlier, Roy is another good example of a CMS platform that kind of we could integrate well with. But regardless, I think that's something that we will want to improve on to make the building and kind of app creation process a lot easier. Mod's an early user, actually. He goes way back. And then, lastly, there's also one about integrating, the question about incorporating other database management services like Xano or other platforms. Right now, what we've seen a lot of users do that via APIs. So I believe Xano exposes an API. There are other ones as well that you can use. But of course, having more tight integration with those is something that we would love to have to support in-house. That one is not on our immediate roadmap. Some of these questions have been like, these are things we're doing in the next few weeks or month. That one's not quite, but it is something we plan to expand to for sure. But it is something that you can also do today if you use the API integration as well. So I would look out for that. And to answer Han Chi's question, so we don't have immediate plans for integration with a different code repo. We've kind of discussed using potentially GitLab or Bitbucket. So that may be in the cards in the future. One thing I'd like to point out is that you can use custom code within the platform. I don't know if that was a misconception or if you meant being able to directly modify some of the page code, but you are able to use custom code, custom functions, actions, and widgets inside of FlutterFlow. You don't have to export to GitHub in order to do that.
Yeah, we have done for this project, we've used custom code. Now we are using team code, so it's a little different. And by that I mean I will just bring it in here. So I'll just go to custom code and just add team code. This progress bar value, and just like that, we get to see it. It's just going to take two numbers and then showcase us or give us a progress bar value back, essentially convert it to a double. So, but I wrote that with our OpenAI integration. So all of the custom functions I've ever written have been through OpenAI. Sorry, confessional time. But sort of cool that you can do that as well. So even with, having the ability to code custom functions in here, even if you don't know code, it doesn't mean you can't utilize custom functions. So.
Yeah, and that's not a confession moment. That's more of that's pretty cool that it worked.
Power move. Power move.
AI generated custom functions is a fun little feature we added. It actually came out of an internal hackathon that we had, and ends up actually working surprisingly well using Copilot, GitHub's Copilot.
How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm on the workout selected details, so the progress bar. I'm actually setting that with the custom function right now.
Nice.
Yes. We'll see how, beyond that, all the UI is built. Oh, except the entering of the reps per the user. So I probably will build that little bottom sheet.
Okay, let me know when you finish that.
Yeah.
I gotta set up the backend for that anyways. So.
Okay, cool. I did add a few field names into user workouts. So, and then user set workouts, I added a completed Boolean so I could showcase if a set was complete or not by everybody.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, yeah. And again, I'm just gonna utilize a component from our templates. I could do this very well from our theme as well, but anybody can use these. So if there are templates you guys want, please let us know. I love building components and having the ability to sort of pass this stuff off to all of our users. Super fun, so.
Do we have run mode links for this app that we could potentially demo? I know we are starting to.
Yes. Oh yeah. Sorry, we're 13 minutes over. We can totally showcase the finished product. So let's just do that. This is all great, but yeah, we do have a finished product done and working. Pretty sure it's basically one for one. So Sofia, I think I sent you that link earlier. Let me get it and we can just share. You can share your screen, I'll share my screen. Oh wait, I need to get the latest one. Give me a second, maybe just watch Sofia for a second.
Yeah, we can switch there.
Just going in and fixing a bunch of errors now. Oh, sweet. Okay.
Yeah, we still have a good amount of errors to work through on that one, but they're all fairly simple. It's just making sure everything connects and functions. So we'll be able to show. If you guys want to re-highlight mine again. So I'll log out so that you guys can. We have the login and sign up. We have forgot password. I'll just. Log in. We get a list of our friends, our next workout, and then our group workouts, which we don't have any yet. So I'll let Sofia share her screen as well, but I'll go in here and I'll look. So this is the first one. We can view a workout. We could choose the workout. we will invite people. This one actually already has people. Oh, I forgot to do the update local state on this one, but you can very easily select and unselect these. So I apologize. I did create sort of a custom, fade gradient at the bottom as well, which is fun. But then you get the core lifter, you get the users in your group up here. That's a great question, Han. I don't know how long this would take without FlutterFlow. It would be quite ridiculous. So
it's at least usually what we try to do to estimate is like look at how many lines of code is generated. Typically for an app that has as many pages, it's easily in the 10,000 or so lines of code, maybe a little bit more. You can start with some boilerplate code you can find on GitHub, etc. It's still, personally, I don't know, Alex, I feel like it would take me at least a few weeks to get it to this level, in terms of the design looking this accurate as well, and Firebase integrated, loading data and all of that. It's easily
having it end to end with this level of detail, I think would take quite some time. And yeah, I think
so. You can
this took an hour or two.
Yeah, I mean, we had built this. Sofia and I had built this. I guess on Saturday in around an hour and 20 with everything. Right. I built the UI in about 50, and then we went through and sort of did the backend stuff, tested. Made sure everything works. As you can see, like this is, I wanted to showcase the timer widget. I think it's so cool. I've been wanting this widget forever, and just having it in FlutterFlow and making it so easy to utilize it is super cool. So we can start our workout, we can pause our workout, we could reset our workout. I'm not going to do that right now because this takes 30 seconds to go back down and to complete it. Which I want to get this. I have 3 buttons in a stack down here, all with conditional visibility. This complete and next is based off of visibility if timer equals 0. So we can complete it and go back. And then looky there, we have our progress bar. We completed a workout. We can see it's completed here. We can go to the next one and we can start this one. We can pause it. At the very end, this is what I was building at the very end. So this was the bottom sheet, and it's just giving you the ability to mark your reps. So if this is a Superman set, you're down on your belly doing Supermans in 30 seconds. How many did you do? In 30 seconds, I typically do around 20. So I'll do that. And then you get to see your user count here. And then for each of the users as well, you would be able to see theirs pop up. So maybe if Sofia can get to it, she could also.
Yeah, I had some technical difficulties, but I'll get back in.
No, all good. All good. I'm on the.
We will make this app available as a sample app, and the video of building it is also going to be posted on our YouTube. But I hope you enjoyed watching a live building session with Andrew and Sofia. Thanks for joining us, Martin, for the session as well. Yeah, it's been awesome to have everyone here watching. Thanks for tuning in from all over the world. We really appreciate you. Thanks for the support as always. And yeah, we're wrapping up the conference. Any final words, Alex?
Cool.
Yeah, this has been amazing. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody, and yeah, thanks for tuning in and being here with us. So.
And go to flutterflow.io for everything else.
Yes. Start building different now. Got to do it. Start building faster, quicker, more platforms without code or with code, whichever.
Tell your friends, tell your fellow developers. And we'll post the recordings of all these sessions as well in the coming weeks. So feel free to share that with your networks.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Yeah.